All right. So it's February 24th. It's Saturday. It's 10 p.m. in Scandinavia, which means it's 4 p.m. in New York and 1 p.m. in California, I think, and 11 p.m. in Estonia. I'll get back to that later. And I'm live. So let's have a look at see if there's anyone in here. Oh yeah, howdy, A. Pinochet. Can you hear me? There are 4 people watching right now. I hope you people can hear me. Uh, let me know. I hope everyone can hear me. Please let me know in the chat. And before I go to today's topics, first of all, I would like to thank everyone for being here. Without you, there is no me. At least what I do wouldn't be possible without you. Your support in any kind is really necessary for me to do this. And we got 9 people in here now. I might have to do a sound check. Okay, it seems like you should be able to hear me, and the numbers are slowly getting up. So before I start talking about today's subjects, there's something I just learned about that I would like to mention. So I would just like to say, God bless President Trump for deciding to move the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem on May 14th, which happens to be Israel's 70th anniversary. So, God bless America, God bless Donald Trump, God bless Israel, and shalom to Israel, to Jerusalem. So, maybe we should talk about today's subjects then. Thank you, Charles Bauer. One moment. So, I would like to start with a quote. I like quotes, you know. So, this is the quote. Courage is contagious. When a brave man takes a stand, the spine of others are often stiffened. Who do you think said this? Sir Winston Churchill? Ronald Reagan? Donald Trump? Maybe Baron Gustav Mannerheim? Or Baroness Margaret Thatcher? No, none of the above. Maybe you guessed it, or maybe not. This quote comes from the American evangelist Billy Graham, a truly great man who died on Wednesday, February 21st, 2018, at the age of 99. He was a farmer son who became an evangelist and who built bridges between different Protestant denominations in America and in the world. If you want to understand American Christianity or American politics, you need to study Billy Graham. Uh, he he influenced American Christianity and he influenced American politics, and also he influenced me greatly. Uh, in the process I had of returning to faith in Jesus Christ back in 2014, I was watching Billy Graham videos on YouTube, and his emphasis of God's grace as the solution to my sin, uh, and his emphasis that sin is a spiritual disease, was a big reason that I returned to belief in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. And let's not forget, people, uh, that about half a century ago, it was a commonly held belief that religion, faith, whatever you call it, was about to disappear. The belief was that Christianity would be gone within a generation or two. And instead of that, the amount of Americans who call themselves Christians have stayed the same as it was 50 years ago. And Billy Graham inspired revival in many places around the world. But he didn't save anyone by himself. Uh, Jesus used Billy Graham as his tool to reach people all over the world. So, so let's remember Billy Graham and be grateful to the Lord for sending us this man to preach the gospel to us. He is now united with the Lord Jesus Christ. Uh, That's really what I have to say about this right now. Oh, one moment, we got someone funny in here. Yes, he's banned now. Uh, well, I believe in freedom of speech, but this is my but seriously, this is my chat, so there is a limit to freedom of speech in my chat. I don't want any indecency. I don't want any anti-Semitism either, in case anyone wonders about that. But apart from that, and well, I don't want real racism. But apart from these things, I'm pretty much open to almost any comments. So so also the Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven, who also happens to be a social democrat, he will meet with the U.S. President Donald Trump in March. They are going to meet at the White House on March 6th. And before Löfven, Denmark's Prime Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Norway's Prime Minister Erna Solberg, and Finland's President Sauli Niinistö have already met with Trump. It's only Löfven and his Icelandic colleague who have not yet met with President Trump. I think that could be interesting. Uh, and well, uh, I would like to mention a few of the things that has been said by Prime Minister Löfven, Prime Minister Trump, and the things that has been going on. So on December 14th in 2015, Stefan Löfven said that Trump, who was then trying to become the Republican candidate in the presidential election on the following year, Löfven said that Trump was out of all reason. And the reason was Donald Trump's remarks on Muslim immigration to the United States. And actually, 2 years ago today, CNN wrote that it is over. Donald Trump is now the Republican candidate for US president. What they meant was that nobody could beat him, and later he did become the presidential candidate. On May 13th, 2016, Stefan Löfven said that, quote, "What Donald Trump expresses scares me," close quote. And a few months later, Donald Trump won the presidential election. And at a rally in Florida on February 18th, 2017, President Donald Trump said, quote, "You look at what's happening last night in Sweden. Sweden, they took in large numbers. They're having problems like they never thought possible," close quote. Swedish and international mainstream media and politicians were amazed at President Trump's statements. Nothing happened in Sweden, quote, "last night," close quote then. Stefan Löfven said, quote, "I was, like many others I believe, surprised by the comments made about Sweden this weekend," close quote. Sweden's former Prime Minister Carl Bildt, a pseudo-conservative, tweeted, quote, "Sweden, terror attack, what has he been smoking?" close quote. And Alexander Stubb, former Prime Minister of Finland and also a pseudo-conservative, tweeted that, quote, "Dare a real Donald Trump. Sweden is immigration friendly, international and liberal. One of the most prosperous, richest, and safest places on earth," close quote. A few days later, we had the Rinkeby riots in Stockholm. And by the way, the Rinkeby riots was my first really viral video. Lars Agebeck says Löfven has adopted children, right? I don't know. I don't think so, but I could have missed that detail. And then in April, there was a terror attack in Stockholm. And after this attack, by the way, US President Donald Trump called up Sweden's Prime Minister Stefan Löfven to offer him help. So now they will soon meet. This could be interesting. I would love to hear what they will talk about. I mean, I would volunteer to report for free from that meeting. Just buy me the plane tickets and give me entrance to the meeting, and I would be happy to just record it. That would be very interesting. I don't think that's going to happen, but well, who knows? And Also, before I move on, I would like to say that I am very happy. I am very happy about all the people who are here, and without you, as I said, and for the newcomers who just arrived, without you there is no me. At least what I do wouldn't be possible. So I'm very happy about your support, and uh, and well, I will read out all comments in super chats. I will read out some of the other chats too. I'm not cheap that way, but if you send me a super chat, I will read out that comment, unless it's really crazy, and then I will thank you for the super chat and tell you that, sorry, no can do. A Pinochet says, I still can't wrap my head around the idea that hand grenade ownership is a thing over there. Wow. Well, I think the thing about hand grenade ownership in Sweden is that it's easier to import hand grenades than handguns to Sweden. I guess that's the thing. Plus, you don't need a permit to own hand grenades. I think it's one or two you can own without a permit. This crazy stuff. Joe Max said, saw you on ABL. Well, I'm happy to see you here now. That's great. So, okay, we got 25 people in the chat room, and that's pretty nice, actually. So, well, I guess I would like to talk a little about Estonia. Let's not forget to celebrate Estonia, which turns 100 years. At least today, there is 100 years since the country declared itself independent. By the way, here's my Estonian flag. I collect flags, and here's my Estonian one. So let's celebrate Estonia for a while now. The Estonian Declaration of Independence was written on February 21st, 1918. It was intended to be declared on that very day. However, some circumstances led to this being delayed until February 24th, 1918. So February 24th is celebrated as Independence Day in Estonia. And in the declaration, among other things, this was written. The declaration starts out with this: Manifesto to the peoples of Estonia. In the course of centuries, never have the Estonian people lost their desire for independence. From generation to generation have they kept alive the hidden hope that in spite of enslavement and oppression by hostile invaders, the time will come to Estonia, quote, when all splints at both ends will burst forth into flames, close quote, and when, close, Kalev will come home to bring his children happiness, close quote. Kalev, by the way, is a very common male name in Estonia. Now that time has arrived. An unprecedented fight between nations has crushed the rotten foundations of the Russian Tsarist Empire. All over the Sarmatian plains, ruinous anarchy is spreading, threatening to overwhelm in its wake all the nations living in the former Russian Empire. From the west, the victorious armies of Germany are approaching in order to claim their share of Russia's legacy and, above all, to take possession of the coastal territories of the Baltic Sea. In this hour, the Estonian National Council, as the legal representative of our land and people, has, in unanimous agreement with Estonian democratic political parties and organizations, and by virtue of the right of self-determination of peoples, found it necessary to take the following decisive steps to shape the destiny of the Estonian land and people. Estonia, within its historical and ethnic boundaries, is declared as of today an independent democratic republic. And then it goes on for a while to define which area that they meant by Estonia, which people they meant with Estonians, and they also spoke about the ethnic minorities in Estonia and how they, according to this document, were going to be guaranteed right to cultural autonomy. Did you know that there were Swedes living in Estonia since centuries? For instance, they are mentioned in this document, together with Russians, Germans, Jews, and then others, the ASEAN others residing within the border. Anyway, uh, this document ends with what I thought I was going to quote. Estonia, you stand on the threshold of a hopeful future in which you shall be free and independent in determining and directing your destiny. Begin building a home of your own. ruled by law and order, in order to be a worthy member within the family of civilized nations. Sons and daughters of our homeland, unite as one man in the sacred task of building our homeland. The sweat and blood shed by our ancestors for this country demand this from us. Our forthcoming generations oblige us to do this. May God watch over thee, and amply bless whatever thou undertake, my dear fatherland. Long live the independent democratic Republic of Estonia. Long live peace among nations. The Council of Elders of the Estonian National Council, dated Tallinn, 21st February 1918. Although, as I said, the actual Declaration of Independence was not until February 24th, but they wrote it on February 21st, 24th, yes. They wrote it 21st, and they declared it 3 days later. A. Pinochet says, thoughts on Belarus. Okay, let's talk a little about Belarus. I mean, what I know about Belarus is that Belarus is a terrible dictatorship, one of the worst that are still left in Europe, probably worse than Russia too. People sometimes ask me about Russia, and my position is that I'm not fond of Putin, but I don't have a very specified opinion on Russia apart from that. Uh, anyway, so before Estonia declared themselves independent, they had belonged to Denmark, to Sweden, and most recently after that to Russia. After the fall of Tsarist Russia, Estonians sought independence. However, in 1940, Estonia was occupied by the Soviet Union, and in 1941 until 1944 by Nazi Germany, and then again by the Soviet Union. Really a horrible history. And Estonia gained independence again on August 20th, 1991. Uh, since then, they have joined the European Union and NATO, and as far as I'm concerned, they're a wonderful, nice, and prosperous country. They might not be first world yet, but I haven't seen any starvation in Estonia. I have visited it several times in the last few years, and I really look forward to my next visit to Estonia. But if there are any Estonians watching right now, dear Estonians, uh, beware of the EU and Brussels. You don't want to be controlled by the EU, just like you did not want to be controlled by the Soviet Union. So, happy Independence Day, Estonia. Head Iseus Vuspäeva. That's supposed to be Estonian for a happy Independence Day. I probably abused that terribly, but well, my Estonian isn't good. My Finnish is actually a lot better. Oh, hello, William Marshall. Well, I'm happy to see you here, and I'm happy to see everyone here who got here. So thank you all for being here. And well, without you, there is no me. So we've got three things here. We have Billy Graham, who just left this life, and I'm certain that he is now with our Lord. We have the Swedish Prime Minister, who is going to meet with President Trump, and Estonia, who is celebrating 100 years today, at least 100 years since their declaration of independence. Although for more than half of this time, they have been they have been ruled by others, by by the Soviets and by the Germans, and mostly by the Soviets again. Uh, Donatas K says, however, Estonia is imitating everything what is present in Scandinavia, for instance, gay union, and most of Estonians don't want to associate themselves with other Baltic nations, Latvia and Lithuania. Would you say that the Latvia and Lithuania are more conservative when it comes to these issues? I know that Estonia wants to they want to be close to Finland, and then they want to be a Nordic country. And Estonian and Finnish is pretty close, and Finland is kind of the big brother of Estonia, I guess you could say. You could argue that case at least. Uh, William Marshall says, God bless Billy. Yes, I agree. God bless Billy Graham. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry to hear this about Estonia, although I kind of I've kind of seen this happening in Estonia. Although I think that Estonia is still, well, they still have low taxes and things like that. They might be right on financial issues still, but they might not be right on what we might call moral or cultural issues. Actually, the Swedish prime minister is a he, but well, yeah, well, as far as I know, he is not a believer. But we should pray for him too. We should pray for him to to be a believer. Absolutely, we should. Donata's case say, well, they are one of the most atheist countries. Yes, I've seen statistics that Estonia and Sweden are competing over which country is the most atheist one. So yeah, although it's a wonderful country. I mean, it looks very nice. At least the parts I have seen. If you go through the downtown Tallinn, the old part of town, you will actually see a lot of churches. So at least there has been church activity there before. But I don't know how many actually attend church or, well, how many believers there are in Estonia. But, well, God always leaves a remnant. That should be true even for Estonia, or that is true, of course, even for Estonia. Uh, but I think, yeah, Estonians are kind of, they are in this region called the Baltic countries, but they don't speak a Baltic language as opposed to Latvians and Lithuanians. Instead, they speak well, they speak a Finno-Ugric language, even a Finnic language. I think Estonian is very close to Finnish. Alicia Bell says, "Okay, back." Oh, welcome back, Alicia Bell. So, you missed our Estonia rant. Well, uh, what else is there? JD1 for Life says it's a lot better sound and image this live stream. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I'm actually just fixed that in a very primitive way. I have been looking at a microphone at Amazon, which I might buy in a not too distant future. But anyway, I'm happy to hear that the sound is better this time. Uh, so A Pinochet says, I've been very interested in the Greek Orthodox Church lately. Thoughts? Uh, I was looking into the Orthodox back in 2013 or something. I was sort of going back and forth with myself, but I was, how can I put this? I don't want to be offensive or anything, but I was doing that kind of as an intellectual thing, because I was reasoning which church is the oldest one and I should belong to the oldest one. That was kind of my reasoning, and I think I was in the camp that says that the Orthodox came before the Roman Catholics. But that's kind of a wormhole I don't feel the need to go down to anymore because, well, I'm basically an evangelical these days. So, but to me, well, as long as you believe in the ba- in well in basic Christianity, as you believe in the common faith of all Christians, you can call yourself Orthodox or Catholics or Lutheran or Anglican or whatever you want, as long as you know that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins and rose on the third day, and that He is Lord and Savior. That's kind of it. Uh, A. Pinochet says they seem to promote the personal responsibility with God. I'm not really sure what you mean by that. That could be a good thing. It depends on what it means. I mean, if it means that if it means sanctification, it's a good thing. If it means getting salvation through works, it's a bad thing. So it depends on what you mean. But of course, you need to be held accountable. But you can't work for your own salvation, kind something like that. I know it's a little complicated, or really not. But we like to complicate this. Oh, relationship. Oh, the personal relationship. Oh, that's good. I agree with you, A. Pinochet. That's a very good thing. Alicia Bell says, going to listen while I drive. Okay, have a nice and safe drive and keep on listening. Uh, In other news, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, recently said that Islamic Sharia is not compatible with British law, and that British law and traditions are based on Christianity. And that kind of surprised me because he is the Anglican Archbishop. But he still says this, and I agree with him on that. So I thought that was wonderful. I just saw the story just 10 minutes ago or something like that. So I just wanted to mention it, and I think that's wonderful. Uh, we could talk a little about Sweden versus America, because when I grew up in Sweden, one of the things that I heard all throughout my childhood was that we don't want to become like America, and by that Swedes would mean violent, a lot of crime, a lot of poverty, stuff like that. And the idea was that Sweden was kind of a perfect society, and this was back in the 80s. Remember that. This was around the time of the fall of the Berlin Wall, or even before it, when Swedes really lived very isolated and thought that Sweden was kind of the closest thing you could get to utopia without having a dictatorship, something like that. So I guess when Trump made his remarks on Sweden, and this is the thing, yeah, I digress a little, but this is the thing about Swedes. Sometimes people think there is no such thing as Swedish nationalism. And that is kind of true, but not really, because there is a very strange kind of Swedish nationalism. And this strange kind of Swedish nationalism is Swedes are very cautious of what other people think about Sweden, what other people say about Sweden. That's actually also the reason why Swedes who voluntarily left the country and moved to places like the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, Spain, and so on, they have they have not been thought of as very nicely in Sweden because well, they sort of chose to leave the best country in the world to move to live somewhere else. Anyway, where was I going with this again? So anyway, when Trump made his remarks about Sweden, and as far as I understand, he made these remarks after having seen some TV documentary about Sweden, about the things going on in Sweden, and that is what he was referring to. He was referring to what was going on sort of every day in Sweden rather than just one specific thing that had happened last night. Uh, but of course, Swedish media, politicians, and even other left wingers around the West, of course, picked on that and said he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I mentioned all the tweets, or some of them at least. And just a few days later, Stockholm was exploding, or the Stockholm suburb of Rinkeby was exploding in violence, and there were riots. Uh, and after that, they were a little silent for a while at least. Lars Agerbäck says, in Denmark, we used to talk about American conditions in relation to the haves and have-nots, crime, racism, police brutality, gun violence, etc., etc. Yeah, I think that's about what Swedes would talk about too back in the 80s and maybe in the 90s. I'm not sure about that. But, well, today, Swedish conditions is an expression in Norway. Norwegian media and Norwegian politicians talk about Swedish conditions as what they don't want, and that's, oh, the Danes have it too now. Now we have the term Swedish conditions in relation to mass immigration problems, Lars Agerbäck says. So, well, okay, so the Danes and the Norwegians use the same term then. That's, well, it's interesting. I don't want to call it wonderful because, as I like to say, I don't want Sweden to turn into some kind of failed state or something like that. I use Sweden as a warning example because I kind of feel I have to, not because it's funny. If Sweden would suddenly turn around and start doing the right things, I would say, look at Sweden. They are doing the right thing. They turned around from a desperate situation and started to do the right things. That's what the rest of the West and the rest of the world should follow. But until that happens, I will say, look at Sweden and what's going on, and at least don't do that. Uh, Alicia Bell says, how does the Lutheran Church differ between America and Scandinavia? I'm not sure they differ that much. I mean, there are conservative Lutherans in America, and they are basically correct when it comes to theology. I mean, apart from some minor things that could be discussed, for instance, infant baptism and stuff like that. But from a Lutheran perspective, they are pretty much correct. There are some of them in Scandinavia too, not many, but they exist. But the mainline Lutheran churches in Scandinavia are pretty liberal. I don't remember the name of that mainline Lutheran church in America right now. What are they called again? Because I think it's a pretty large one who is pretty liberal. But then of course you have, is it the Wisconsin Synod is pretty conservative, and you have the other one too. I used to know this, but I haven't been looking into this for a while. Well, maybe I'll get back to it later. Tor from North says, how come two countries like Norway and Sweden so alike and similar, and both have been mentioned by President Trump, but for very different reasons? Oh, one moment. Charles Bauer says Missouri Synod. Thank you. I think the Missouri Synod is pretty much accurate when it comes to theology. Well, Tor from North, I think that the difference here is that Norway has not had the same kind of problems as Sweden, at least not as many of them. Norway is starting to get these problems too, but not as many. And in Norway, it's mainly a problem connected with Oslo and some other places around Oslo. It's not connected with the entire country, like in Sweden, where it's connected to more or less all of the country. And so Sweden was highlighted by international media, and then Trump saw this and he talked about this. When it comes to Norway and President Trump's mention of Norway, well, he was just visited by the Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg, and after that he supposedly said, he said something about S-hole countries, and he said, why don't we take people from countries like Norway? Supposedly, I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know what he said or didn't say. But I guess if he said that, I guess his impression was that Norway was a functioning country, and Anna Solberg probably knows how to act around the world leaders, even though I think a lot of her policies in Norway, I'm not very fond of these policies, but she probably acts more like a statesman than Swedish politicians do. So I guess that would make a difference. A. Pinochet says, many claim that America is the next embodiment of Babylon. Thoughts? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that would probably be the European Union, but I don't really know. So we have 26 people, 27. Wonderful. We just got one more. 27 people watching, and thank you all for being here. And if you and really, what I do is impossible without you. Without you, there is no me. At least I wouldn't be able to do this. So I'm very happy about you being here. So I don't just get to talk to myself all evening, because that would be kind of boring. Psalm 122:6 says, in the US, ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran, is very shockingly liberal. The Wisconsin and Missouri Synods are conservative. Yes, the ELCA, yeah, they are liberal. I read about that a few years ago. And Jacob from Poland says, any new terrorist attack, arson, or gang rape recently? Well, there hasn't been any terrorist attacks in Sweden, at least. Arson, well, there are cars burning, and I was informed today by an unrecognized source that there is even in the city of Karlstad, which is kind of between Stockholm and Oslo, there hasn't been much news about it, but apparently they have a no-go area there too now with cars burning, but the media is trying to put a lid on it. They don't want to talk about it because they don't want to inspire others to start burning cars. So apparently that's going on. I mean, this comes from an unrecognized source, but I think I can trust this source. Gang rape. I can't think of any cases right now. But there was a horrible stabbing case in Vetlanda in Sweden. And yeah, that was a pretty horrible case. One girl that was stabbed 100 times or something like that, and of course she died. That was horrible. By by a Syrian man, and Swedish media wrote. Let's see if I remember this correctly. Swedish media wrote something like this: because he is not a Swedish citizen, he might be he might be deported. He might be. He should be. Uh, yeah, I need a little coffee. William Marshall says, "Is Ramadan soon? There's always attacks during this time." Yes, I'm not really sure when Ramadan starts this year, but yes, I think there will be. Last year during Ramadan, cars started burning in Oslo, and there were also some other things going on, but mostly it was cars on fire and kids, well, youngsters throwing rocks at security guards and stuff like that. Lars Agerbeck says, "Do you follow the situation in South Africa with the white farmers?" I haven't followed the situation with the farmers per se. I know that being white in South Africa might not be very fun. I think problem with South Africa is they kind of just turn the tables around and are trying to get revenge. And this is what happens if you don't have Christ. This is what is going to happen. You will just get people fighting each other back and forth for generations. So it's really a horrible thing. Yeah, Jacob from Poland says 100 times, WTF? There is a special place in hell for that kind of creature. Yeah, it's not my job to judge him after his death, but I hope that he turns around and receives Jesus as his Lord and Savior. But he should be deported from Sweden, really, at least. Charles Bauer says, "Have you visited USA lately?" Well, I was in the US a few weeks ago, and that was nice. I didn't want to leave, but I did. I hope I'll be back in a not too distant future. Jacob P from Poland says, "In Poland, undercover policemen had to shoot 3 Ukrainians and fend off a Ukrainian mob. Are you having clashes with Ukrainian immigrants or Ukrainian refugees or whatever status they have in Poland? I know that there's a lot of Ukrainians who moved to Poland, which is kind of interesting when people say that Poland doesn't accept any immigrants. Actually, Poland has a lot of Ukrainian immigrants, but Poland doesn't want to accept Islamic immigration. Uh, and actually, I should mention this today too. I'm going to Poland on March 15th to Gdansk, and I had and I will stay in Gdansk until March 19th. So maybe March 16th, 17th, or 18th, I might be free to meet and interview with some Polish people if anyone would like to talk about what's going on in Poland with the situation in the country, the situation with the EU and things like that, all the controversy that's been around Poland. I would be happy to speak to someone in Poland about that. I sort of had one person I was going to talk to, but he can't talk to me now because he got some personal issues to deal with. Let's see. Yuko Ishihara says, "Come visit the US." Oh, I will. I don't know exactly when right now, but I will. I have actually been to the US twice in my life, and both of these times have been during the last. Actually, I think yeah, both have been during the last 6 months, and so that's interesting. So I really want to go back there. Yes. A Pinochet says V4 Visegrad. Yeah, basically I am sympathetic towards the Visegrad countries. I mean, I might not agree with everything they do or say, but basically I think they are more leaning towards the right decisions than the Western European countries plus Canada are doing. So I still think they're pretty sane. Of course, there might be some crazy stuff going on there too. And and we have 24 people in the chat right now, or 24 people watching. So I'm happy that you're here. And by the way, I think you should check out. I think you should check out my merchandise. There is a link right under this video that you could check out. Maybe you want a T-shirt or a coffee mug. That's great. Although I will launch, or I will kind of show off a T-shirt as soon as I get it myself in the mail. It takes some time. And Yuko says Facebook. Yes, there's a Facebook link too. I can send you the Facebook link. One moment. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's see here. Send you the Facebook link right here. Oh, wow. That's interesting. I can't really send that link in the chat. I didn't know that. But if you look in the box, in the information box under this video or this live stream, there is a Facebook link under there. So there is a Facebook page for Swede Speaks, so you can have a look at that. And Jacob from Poland says there are about 2.5 to 3 million Ukrainians in Poland currently. That sounds about right. I can imagine that. Although I wouldn't expect Ukrainians and Poles to be that much at odds with each other. But I know there has been some some disagreements over pretty recent history. I think there is some bad blood between Ukrainians and Poles, I believe, although you're kind of closely related. But well, if you look at the Balkans, you can see that even if it's almost the same people, people might still not like each other. It's sad and it's horrible. Uh, by the way, next Saturday, I'm going to. I at least I hope so. I will have an interesting guest next week, so that could be interesting. And so I just wanted to mention that. Jacob from Poland says short version: Bandera cult on Ukrainian side. Oh, Bandera! I heard of that. Bandera is what again? Some kind of Ukrainian murderers or something? Psalm 122:6 says, interesting, the most violent places in America seem to be those run by liberals. Well, that's my impression too. That places like Chicago, Detroit, places with places where the Democrats are in power and they have strict gun rules, which means guns are in the hands of criminals and the law-abiding citizens are not allowed to defend themselves. So that's really just crazy thinking, sadly. Free Tanker says, where is the ghost from? The ghost? Which ghost are you talking about? Did I say anything about the ghost? Well, I don't know. I don't know what you mean. Chicago, Baltimore. Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh. Oh, the guest. Oh, I'm sorry, Free Tanker. The guest. Oh, I guess you could say he's kind of all over the place. He currently lives in Finland, but he is an American. So it's an interesting combination. And well, at least we plan on live streaming together next Saturday, so that will be interesting. And we spoke for more than an hour yesterday, and we had a lot of stuff to discuss. So we will have things to talk about. So yes, that will be fun. I hope. So let's see here. Jacob P says, yep, he is a Ukrainian nationalist who is responsible for Pole slaughter in Volhynia region and other places. It is said there was up to 500,000 Poles. Oh, right, right. That's those people. Oh, was okay. I was kind of guessing. Oh, Free Tanker says, who will win the ice hockey final? Oh, I have no idea. I don't follow the Olympics. I guess I should, but I did hear that Sweden beat the Finns, but I also heard that both were playing pretty poorly. So, well, the Swedes won, but they didn't win really nicely. They just won because the Finns were playing even worse. That's what I heard. I didn't watch the games. I don't know. But, well, we'll see who wins. I don't know. Canada? The US? I have no idea. I wonder if Justin Trudeau is watching ice hockey. No, no, I'm just being sarcastic here. I kind of always return to Justin Trudeau in my mind. He's like an embodiment of liberal craziness. Uh, Jacob P. from Poland says, any thoughts on 120 dB movement in Germany? Oh, them again. Actually, I have. I thought I was going to look into them more closely, but I have yet to do so. So I don't really know what they stand for. I know they highlight some very important issues, but apart from that, I don't know. I don't know what they stand for, so I can't tell you really what I think of them more than that. Okay, at least they highlight some things that needs to be highlighted, and so far that's a good thing. Three tankers edge. Which country has the most white guilt, Germany or Sweden? Probably Germany, with Sweden as a good second, probably. But I could be wrong on this one. But I think Germany has an extreme case because of the Holocaust. And of course, the Holocaust was a really, really bad thing, of course. But today's Germans, well, you won't solve any kind of historical guilt from the Holocaust by importing Jew haters from the Middle East. That just makes everything worse. So that's, I mean, the logic in that, there's no logic at all. Jacob from Poland says 120 dB movement against migrant rapes on German women. Yeah, well, I think that needs to be highlighted, so I support them in that. I can say that much. Uh, Donatas Case says Trudeau is the mocker of genuine masculinity. Well, yeah, it's pretty hard to disagree with that. And Lars Agerbeck says, are Swedish sports commentators still salivating over foreign-born sports stars like Zlatan? Any other examples of this? I don't know. I guess I have to start watching sports too. I know that Zlatan was popular, but apart from that, I don't really know. Actually, I think Zlatan was born in Sweden, but his parents were both from the Balkans. I think so. And actually, a lot of people think that Zlatan is Muslim, but he's not. He is at least nominally Catholic. His father is Muslim, at least nominally, while his mother is Catholic. As far as I know, that's the way it is. But I mean, he could be completely indifferent on these issues. He most likely is. So, oh, Jacob from Poland says, Google the song Soy Boy by Owen Benjamin. I've heard the term Soy Boy. I guess I could Google it. Uh, let's see here. Owen Benjamin. Oh yeah, I will. I will listen to it. Yeah, a little later. Uh, oh, Free Tanker says, by the way, something is wrong with your Danish bank account listed on your website. I think it's missing one number. Oh, I will have to look into that. Uh, thank you for informing me about that. I'll write that down. I'll just write a note to myself so I won't forget about it. Check out Danish bank account number. Actually, if you give me one moment, I'll have a look. One moment. Don't go anywhere. Okay. Let's see. I'll compare my notes to my website and see if I just missed something or what happened there. Okay, I have the wrong notes, so I'll have to go get the right ones. So let's see. Okay, I'll have a look on. I'll check what it says on my website and compare it to my notes here and see if there's an easy solution to this, or if I have to look closer into it later. Okay, that's interesting. I'll take a look at my Danish card and see what that says. That's my Swedish one. It won't help. As far as I can understand, the number should be correct. No, as far as I can see, the number is correct. So that's the number it says on my Danish bank card too, where it says bank account number. So no, it should be correct. And the account belongs to Danske Bank, by the way. All of my bank accounts, as per right now, belongs to Danske Bank. So maybe you should try again, or just send me a message if you need information. But no, the number is. Oh, thank you, Fritanker. Fritanker says strange. Normally it starts with 4 numbers. Okay, I'll try later. A Pinochet says the Nada Dimmy t-shirt is awesome. I'll purchase one next month. I appreciate that a lot, A Pinochet. Lars Agerbäck says, have you seen the new Utöya movie? Are you going to see it? I assume you refer to the Norwegian movie. There's an American one too, I think, or at least an international or an English-speaking one. I haven't seen any of them. I'm not really planning on it. I might have to do it for reviewing purposes, but I'm not really planning on it. Samuel McLean says, do the small towns in northern Sweden share the same suicidal hopes for the future that large cities do? If not, are people moving north? There are some towns in northern Sweden that have been starting to get the same kind of problems as cities in southern Sweden. For instance, Härnösand, which arguably is in the north of Sweden and is a pretty small town, maybe 50,000 people or something like that. They have experienced some problems with their migrant population recently, and there has also been some problems in Östersund, which is in the north of Sweden, inland city. I think that's the largest city in the north of Sweden, though, but it's not that large. They have had some problems. I haven't heard of people moving north, although arguably you could move to smaller places in the north. The problem with that would be, of course, that there are no jobs in the north of Sweden unless you can sort of live by your own. Well, if you can take your job with you, you could do that. But the job market in the north of Sweden is terrible and has been so for decades. Truth Conquers says, for how long will you stream live tonight? I'm not really sure, but we can we can say maybe a half more for 30 more minutes. We'll see. Depends on well depends on the traffic in the chat too. So I'll be here for at least another 30 minutes. Let's put it that way. Unless you all leave, of course. I won't sit here and talk to myself, but well, another 30 minutes. That's what I think. And yeah, in Sweden, there's always been a division between the north and the south. And the south was always kind of the prosperous part, while the north has been maybe not poor, but it's been the poorer part. And people from the north moved south to work. There was some industry in the in the Swedish coastline to the north, but inland Sweden was really horrible. There really were no industry, no nothing there. There wasn't, and I think actually the policies in Sweden were pretty centralist. They were so. I think the Social Democrats they didn't really care about that part of Sweden. They preferred kind of moving people to the south. And actually, in many ways, I think that socialism is an ideology that thrives in cities rather than. I mean, when I was a left liberal, I thought that socialism thrived in the countryside, but I was obviously wrong. Conservatism thrives in the countryside, while socialism will thrive in cities because people are disconnected from each other, and it's easier for them then to start believing in government rather than believing in God or even believing in tradition. I don't really believe in tradition per se. I think tradition is a good thing if it's a good tradition, um, because because what I defend is Western civilization, Judeo-Christian Western civilization, which means that we build on a heritage from Jerusalem, from Athens, and from Rome. And really, without the Ten Commandments, there wouldn't be any Western civilization. Let's put it that way. And without Christianity, you wouldn't have European or Western civilization at all. Psalm 122:6s says, Paul, Apostle of Christ, film opens in US theaters in March. Will this film be shown in Europe? I don't know. I mean, I assume it will, but I haven't checked that out. I could Google it quickly and see. Actually, I have no idea. I mean, I hope it will be. I hope you will be able to see it in Europe, but I don't know. I would assume that you would be able to see it in some European countries, maybe in Poland or in Hungary, Sweden, Norway, Denmark. I don't know. Uh, Lars Agebeck says, "Do you think Berlusconi has a chance to make a comeback? What do you think of him?" I missed the part about him making a comeback, but I don't know. Is he trying to make a comeback? Well, maybe he is. Uh, I used to think that he was kind of funny. I think he did some bad stuff. I'm not. I don't. I have not really studied Italian politics, but I know he was criticized for owning a lot of the media, and I remember that I would respond to that. He is criticized by the very people who own all the media in Sweden. So I mean, they were kind of throwing stones in a glass house. That's a Swedish saying. That means that you should be careful whom you criticize, if you're doing the same thing yourself. So I don't know. I'm not sure about Berlusconi. Uh, and I mean, I don't really know his policies when it comes to free market policies and immigration, cultural conservatism, all these things that I think should be there. Well, yeah, I'm not sure about him. Yuko Ishihara says, "You're correct, sir." Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to hear that. Charles Bauer says, "American saying too." Oh, good. I was just translating it in my mind, as I kind of do all the time. but it's really interesting, this thing about the Archbishop of Canterbury and how he said that. Let's have a look at the quote. Let's see. Where did I put that? I put that under UK. Oh, here it is. He said, Islamic rules are incompatible with British laws, claims Archbishop of Canterbury. And the article is actually from today, published in the British newspaper The Express. So 4 numbers. Well, I see, Free Tanker. See if we can solve this. I'll try to log into my Danish bank account and see if there's something missing here. One moment, see if I can solve this riddle. So, one moment. Okay, let's see. Log on. NetBank. So I'll see if there's something that I missed here. We'll see what the chat says. Right. Now I need to look at my notes again. See how this thing works. I haven't logged in for a long time on this bank account. Let's see. Right. So let's see what's going on here. This is an interesting situation. So I'll see what's going on with this bank account number. Oh, I see the fault. Okay, you're right. The number is not correct. I missed something and I wrote it down. I'll write it down here first, and then we'll solve this situation. Oh, wow. I've actually got 9 Danish kroner in there. They must have been there for a very long time. Let's see. Okay. Okay. I missed the 4 digits. Okay. I will give you the number here, free. Thank you. I had completely missed the first 4 digits. No one ever transferred any money into the bank account, except I did it myself a few times when I was going to Denmark. So you can check that one out. That should work. Let's see. I see that Lars and Free Thinker are discussing the For Freedom demonstration. I actually, I actually friended Tanya Groth on Facebook from that organization, and well, she accepted my friendship request because I want to know what the organization is about. Uh, if they're about stopping Islamization of Denmark, I'm all for it. So it depends on what kind of issues they are about. So I will change the bank account number on my website then to put the correct one in there. Alice says Medborgerlig Samling. I would say about Medborgerlig Samling, I guess you could translate that to Civic Coalition or something like that. They are a small party in Sweden. They are kind of sort of conservative, I think, but they have some ideas that I think shouldn't be in a conservative party. They still have some of these green ideas put in there. And I mean, I don't want to. I mean, just to make this clear, I'm not for wasting nature or something like that. Of course not. But these green ideas are usually kind of socialist, put it shortly. But anyway, I think Medborgerlig Samling, that's kind of people who don't want to vote for any of the pseudo right parties like the moderates, the Liberal Party, the Christian Democrats, or the Center Party, and who don't want to vote for the Sweden Democrats, they might vote for Medborgerlig Samling, the Civic Coalition. But if people would vote for the Civic Coalition instead of voting for the old so-called right-wing parties, I would actually think that would be a good thing. So I kind of wish them well anyway, because I'm not wishing the moderates or any of the other pseudo non-socialist parties well in Sweden the way things are going right now. And I mean, the Swedish situation is really difficult because there's only one party in parliament who is opposed to the changes of the Swedish basic laws. I called it the constitution recently, but someone pointed out to me that that translation wasn't really correct. But however you translate it, the only party that is part of opposed to changing the Swedish constitution or the Swedish basic laws is that's the Sweden Democrats. So the way it goes right now, I will have to hope for them to actually get their own majority in parliament, or maybe a majority together with the Civic Coalition, Medborgerlig Samling, because I think I believe they are opposed to this too. Alice says, didn't the leader of MP, Miljöpartiet, the Green Party, paint her boat with bad? Yes, she did. She painted her boat with bad paint, with toxic paint that was actually outlawed. But it's kind of the thing that do as I tell you, don't do as I do. Or that was the previous leader actually, Åsa Romson. She is not the leader anymore. She eventually had to leave. Kids or Mean says, if you haven't already, join the NRA, please. I don't know if I can join the NRA as an overseas member. I don't know what the rules are for people who don't actually live in America. Uh, Alice says exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. A lot of the people, especially on the left these days, are all about this virtue signaling. I mean, let's take this Me Too thing. And I'm not in favor of everything that's been going on with Me Too. But let's say some of these cases are genuine. Some of these cases are actually true and correct. And there has been some bad stuff going on. And not all men, but a lot of the men who have been revealed through this have been, in America, it's been liberals. In Sweden, it's been socialists. Not in every individual case, but the bulk of it, the majority of it. Alice says we can't have guns in Sweden. I know, and that's a problem. Really, that is a problem because not an an armed man is a citizen, but an unarmed man is a subject. That's really true, and Swedes are not allowed to defend themselves. That's really crazy. Angel Muniz says, "Good evening," a Swede speaks. Well, good evening to you too, sir. Happy that you found my stream. Uh, that's interesting. I assume might be Swedish, or at least lives in Sweden. And it's interesting because when I bring up the topic of gun ownership, people in Sweden or in Norway think I'm pretty crazy, and they think I'm some kind of gun crazed nut who just wants to shoot people, and I don't want to shoot anyone. Just that having said, uh, Alice says Stockholm. Yeah, I grew up around Stockholm, not in Stockholm per se, but I grew up close to Stockholm. But I haven't lived there for a long time. Uh, I lived in a smaller town in Sweden for some years, and then I moved to Oslo. But yeah, it's kind of the same problem all over Scandinavia when it comes to these issues. I think gun laws in Finland are a little better. I think so, and that might actually make the situation a little better there. Uh, Mark Edwards says, "Did you see the latest video by Tommy Robinson? He's in Germany covering a woman's march against migrant attacks on women, only to be attacked themselves by left-wing Antifa thugs." I don't think I've seen that specific video, but I've seen a few videos of Tommy Robinson in Germany. I saw him being kind of not exactly attacked, but he was uh, he was talking to the mainstream media, and they were going to report him for hate speech or something like that. There was some crazy stuff going on. Charles Bowers says, "So many liberals in America are hypocrites." I think they are, yes. Uh, let's see. Uh, Free Tanker says, "Pepper spray just got legalized in Denmark thanks to the Danish People's Party." Well, that's a good thing. Really, I mean, at least they have some way of defending themselves, and that's a good thing. Because if you want to attack someone, if you want to kill people, if you want to rape someone, if you want to rob them, whatever you want to do, you will go after unarmed people. If you know that there is a risk that people will be able to defend themselves, that they might hurt you instead, you will think twice. I mean, why do shooters go to schools? Well, because they're mentally insane, but also because schools are gun-free zones. A gun-free zone isn't going to help anyone. Truth Conquer says, "Great video with Tommy in Germany." I really need to watch up on some of these things. Kain vai Victis. I'm not sure about the pronunciation of that name. It looks kind of Latin to me. Anyway, they say, "Do you feel the Swedish Democrats will be able to pull in enough votes to have some power in the next election to enact change for Sweden?" I don't think that the Sweden Democrats will get their own majority. And I kind of think they almost need that. Maybe if they would reach 40 or 45%, but I don't think they will. So I'm afraid the election that's coming up in September, I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I sincerely hope that I'm wrong. And I mean, it's 7 months left almost, but I intend to do some kind of live stream during the Swedish election. I mean, well, I hope I will be able to, and maybe have a few guests and we can discuss what's going on. And maybe we will have a happy live stream and say, look, things are going great, although I'm afraid they won't go great. I think there's still a lot of people in Sweden who are burying their heads in the sand and who are saying nothing's wrong here. And actually, I'll give you a little hearsay. Someone that I know, or one of my Facebook friends, gave a little hearsay to me. She said that she had friends in Sweden who have started to agree that things aren't going very well in Sweden. But they say, but that is not happening in our neighborhoods. And before it reaches our neighborhoods, we are going to live we're going to live in gated communities. I mean, that's just a crazy argument. So we don't need to care. I mean, that's what they mean. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy talk, but and I suppose these were nice left-wing people who apparently don't really care about the people who they want. They want their votes, but they don't really care about them. Let's see. Alice says, "Trust me, they even killed one of their own, Olof Palme." There is something fishy with the Palme murder. Let's put it that way. I don't know. I don't know who did it. I don't think it was the one. the one who was sentenced for it, and eventually he was freed from it. I mean, Christer Pettersson, the guy who was sentenced for having killed Palme, and then eventually was freed. He wasn't a nice man. He had done a lot of bad stuff, but I don't think he killed Palme, and I could be wrong. There are many theories out there. Uh, uh, Solve 122.6 essay. So pepper spray was illegal in Denmark. Is it legal in Sweden, Norway, and Finland? I'm not sure about. I'm not sure about Finland, but I know that in Sweden and Norway it's illegal. Although I also know that you can buy it in some stores in Oslo, and they advertise it pretty openly, and that's interesting because as far as I understand, you're not really allowed to own it. So it's crazy, but well, Norwegians are less conformist than Swedes, which means that they might not always comply with the law if they think the law is stupid. And I mean, I think you should obey the law as long as the law doesn't go against the word of God. At the same time, I have some sympathy for the Norwegian attitude when it comes to that. Free Tanker says about the Danish for freehead. It's not really radical, but it's a bit unprofessional led, in my opinion. Lars would probably agree. Yeah, I haven't looked into them, but as I think I said last week, or was it the week before, that if I would get an invitation to speak for them, I would probably be. I would most likely be happy to. I might have to look into exactly what they stand for, but as far as I understand, I would agree with their platform. Ali says it's allowed to buy but not to use. Dumb. Yeah, that's really dumb. I mean, either you just ban it altogether or you allow it. Of course, you can have some kind of restrictions, like you shouldn't sell it to 5-year-olds or stuff like that. But selling it to people who are not allowed to use it, that doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, that's. Oh, Ali says like cigarettes. Well, cigarettes are they're legal, but they're heavily taxed. Jacob from Poland says better to be used and be trialed than let yourself be killed. Yeah, I have a hard time disagreeing with that. Let's put it that way. See, am I logged into Facebook too now? I guess I am. No, not really. Good. So we I've been online, or I mean, yeah, I've been live streaming for a little more than an hour. There's 26 people here, and I'm very happy that you're here. And I see that there are some new people showing up every now and then, and I'm happy about that because without you, there really is no me. Or I mean, at least I wouldn't be doing what I do now. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy for all kinds of support. Uh, uh, so yeah, I'm very happy about that. And also, well, thank you, Free Thinker, for making me solve the mystery about my Danish bank account number. Apparently, I have missed a part of the bank account number. Oh, Michael Lemons is funny. Well, well. Alice says, "Are you in a party?" Uh, no, I am not a member of any political party. I have been, I have been a I have actually been a member of different parties, but I figured out I'm not really, I'm not really a party person. I mean, I don't fit into political parties. If you're active in a political party, at least in Sweden or Norway, you have to, if not agree with the party platform, you at least you have to defend it. And parties will always say a lot of stupid things that you don't like. So I think I I actually think I will do more change outside of party politics than within it. Uh, I could be wrong though, but that's what I think. Freetänker says a Swede has not fooled a Dane since 1658. Yeah, 1658 was an interesting year. Uh, Sweden conquered a large part of Denmark. Eastern Denmark turned into southern Sweden. Uh, if you ask me, you can have that part of Sweden back, but I'm not sure you want it really. Samuel McLean says, "We're happy there is a you. I appreciate the people that speak out about this madness." Oh, thank you, Samuel. And Kind Vi Victis says, "Soy on Anthony Brian Logan and Sanity for Sweden. Been subbed a while. Good work." Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for your kind words. I'm very happy about. Well, I'm happy about your kind words. Uh, Seriously, Ed Wesson, I will ban you right now. Okay, I'll. There is one more kind of messages that I just won't let get through, and that's personal insults. If you uh, if you come with personal insults against me, I won't let these messages through. That's just the way it is. Uh, Free Tanker says, "What you do outside this project?" Well, I am writing a book called Understanding Sweden, and hopefully I will be done with it soon. I've been working on it for a few months, and then I will be able to sell a lot of copies too. That would be nice. So I'm writing it in English because I'm selling it, or my idea is to sell it to an international audience. Swedes are very much welcome to buy it too, and maybe one day there will actually be a market for a Swedish translation. Uh, let's see. Lars Agerbeck says, "I'm leaving. Have a nice evening, all of you." Well, have a nice evening, Lars Agerbeck, if you're still here. Uh, uh, and Mikael Jönsson says, "What do you think of the elections in Italy?" Well, I haven't looked that closely into it, but I understand that there is an issue with whether they will actually start rooting for an Italian leave from the EU, and I will be very happy if that happens. So, if some kind of EU skeptic party wins the Italian election, that will call for a celebration. Let's put it that way. And Wendy Dodd just sent a super chat of $20 saying, "Thank you, Swede." Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wendy Dodd, too. Uh, Charles Bauer says, "I'm sure it would be a bestseller in America, your book." I hope so. I have a very good proofreader because, as you know, English isn't my first language. I think you by now, I think you could, it's arguably my third language after Swedish and Norwegian. I like to claim the Swedish and Norwegian are really the same language, but okay, for the sake of argument, let's say Swedish and Norwegian are different languages. I guess the linguists would say so. So, okay, in that case, English is my third language, but I have a very good proofreader who kind of cleans up when I mess up the grammar and makes strange sentences, stuff like that. Uh, let's see here. Jacob from Poland says it's gonna happen. I'm telling you, Swede. I assume you mean my book. Yeah, it's gonna happen. I've been writing on it pretty thoroughly. I've been writing on it every month for a while now, so I'm kind of following my plan. And I just underestimated the time it would take for me to be done by it. Let's see. Oh, Jacob from Poland was to say they will vote for leaving for sure. I assume you refer to the Italians. I hope so. I hope so. And Joel Aldrich says, "I agree with Charles. In Minnesota, USA, we have many Swedes. I know that all over the Midwest, there's a lot of people of Swedish ancestry, at least. I was to the Midwest not that long ago, and I noticed Swedish names around and Norwegian names, by the way. And yeah, I noticed Scandinavian names. Let's see. Charles Bauer says your English is great. Well, thank you. It's not my mother tongue, but I get by, I think. No one has complained so far today. Well, Kind Victor says vote for the pasta. Ah, that's kind of funny. Uh, uh, Actually, I like pasta. Maybe I'm part Italian. Well, I could mention that I took a DNA test a few months ago, and I came out as part Southern European. So who knows? I mean, a very small part, 1% or something like that. But who knows? Maybe I have some Italian ancestor. Yeah, and as I said, if you missed that, I'm going to Poland in March 14th. I'm flying from Oslo to Gdansk, which is a coastal city in the north of Poland. Oh, March 15th, I mean, sorry. And I'm staying until March 19th. I was going to meet up with a Polish guy and interview him, but he can't meet me because he's had some family things to deal with. So I might be able to meet with someone else March 16, 17, or 18 to interview him or her about what's going on in Poland. That would be very interesting, and also the reactions. Well, how people in Poland think of the reactions from EU countries, from the EU, or whatever, the things that are going on in Poland. Joel Ulrich says, I think everyone likes Italian. I think it's a worldwide favorite style of food. I think it is. Yeah, trolls will be trolls. That's the way it is. Uh, Mark Edwards says, Gdansk is a great city. I went there a few years ago. I have been in Gdansk once back in the 90s, 97, I think it was. Uh, but I don't remember. I was only there for one evening. We left the next day with a ferry from with a ferry from Gdansk going to Sweden. But it would be nice to see Poland again and see what happened in the last 21 years because I've only been watching Poland from abroad now. Alice says my idol in Sweden is Katarina Janouch. Yeah, and it's interesting because Katarina Janouch is of recent immigrant background, just like a lot of the other people who are criticizing what's going on in Sweden. And I think they're actually that's not a coincidence. I think because they have this recent background, they are not as conformist as many of the ethnic Swedes. And I mean, even I have some pretty recent immigrant background because my paternal grandparents arrived from Finland in the 1950s, so they were not formed by this conformism, and I think they were able to pass on some of that. And probably the same is true with Katarina Janouch and some of the other people in Sweden. I could drop a few names. Marcus Birro, the Sanandaji brothers. I'm forgetting a whole bunch of people right now, but I think there's a lot of people. Free Tanker says, is Sweden so much worse than the US? It seems like the USA with the racial tensions has many problems too. Well, I think the racial tensions you speak about, they might be prevalent or they might be visible in some cities, but I think if you go to some other places, small town America or rural areas, I'm not sure they're really visible there. But it might be very visible in New York City or something like that. I'm not sure actually. But what I could say is that Sweden has been moving in the wrong direction for a long time, while America kind of is moving in the right direction. Even New York City was cleaned up by what's his name, Rudy Giuliani. I think the New York City is kind of getting worse again. I could be wrong on this. This is my impression. So they might need to get Rudy Giuliani back. They might need a Republican back instead of some crazy Democrat. But the thing is, the US was more violent than Sweden, and maybe it is as a whole, but a lot of the violence in the US it's concentrated to some bigger cities, usually run by Democrats. If you take smaller towns in the US, you will get completely different statistics. That's at least that's my impression. So, well, I guess when it comes to the US, it depends on which part of the US we are talking to or about. Are we comparing Sweden to Chicago? Are we comparing Sweden to Minnesota? Are we comparing Sweden to California? Are we comparing Sweden to Wisconsin, to Alabama, etc.? I think it depends. I think it depends on which part of the US we will compare to Sweden. Wendy Dodd says, I think a lot of the racial tensions are exaggerated by academia and the media. Yeah, I think the left really thrives on creating, well, conflict. That's what they breed on. And I think if you're conservative, you don't really care about if someone is white, black, yellow, brown, or whatever, because that's not what it's about. It's not about the color of your ears. It's what's between your ears, as my friend told me yesterday, and I agree completely. This is a pretty good way of putting it. Mark Edwards says, I used to live in Nynäshamn in 2004. I understand that I won't recognize the place now, which is a real shame, thanks to multiculturalism. I don't know what's going on in Nynäshamn. I haven't heard much about that place for a long time. I've only been there a few times, and I was there. I was there when I came from Gdansk in '97, and after that I visited the place once or twice. But it's not really a place you go to visit unless you have some kind of interest in that specific place. Uh, William Marshall says, "I think the left survives on lies." I agree. I think that's well, that's what they live on, and so the left will talk about solidarity and the love for everyone and tolerance and stuff like that, but that's not really true. Actually, uh, I saw another story today, and I saw this in my Facebook feed. But there is this woman in Norway who is named Shurika Hansen. She is a Norwegian citizen of Somali background. She's married to a Norwegian. She has left Islam. She has embraced Western civilization. She is opposed to, well, Islam, to hijabs, to stuff like that. We had a minor disagreement over something recently, but basically we're on the same page. We might disagree on strategy, but we're on the same page. And she wrote something on Facebook about how she had been called into a dialogue meeting with some, I think it was some groups of Islamic immigrants because they think she's a racist. But then this meeting was called off because they found out that she's aligned with the Norwegian Progress Party, Fremskrittspartiet, and with Sylvi Listhaug, the previous immigration minister. So they say that she's a racist. First of all, I don't agree that the Progress Party are racists. Okay, they might have a racist or two among them. Every party does, and there's a lot of them in the left, by the way. But so they are saying that this Somali-born ex-Muslim is a racist because she, I guess, actually, what they are saying is that she's a racist because she's opposing Islam. But they are trying to turn it into she's a racist because she has aligned herself with the previous Norwegian immigration minister and stuff like that. I mean, that's just crazy. And this is the, I'm not sure if this was the left or if it was some immigrant groups, but the left is aligning themselves with these people, and that's really crazy. Let's see. Wendy Dodd said a lot of Californian liberals have moved to Texas, and Free Tanker said, with the rising demographics, Republicans will lose Texas to the Democrats due to Latinos voting 80% in favor of the Democrats. Yeah, I don't get this. If you move from Latin America because it's full of failed states, why do you want to bring socialism to the US? William Marshall says, I need a coffee, back in 5. Yeah, well, see you in 5 then. Actually, yeah, Charles Bauer says, yes, free tanker, that's why they want all the immigrants. Actually, yes, there is a point to this. And the point is, and I've used this point for a few months now, not so much in my videos, because, well, I need to figure out how to use it without coming out wrong, but I believe it goes something like this. People who work and support themselves will, in general, not vote for the left. In what we might call the good old days, workers voted for the left because the left was kind of the working class. Well, they were for the working class, or that was the idea. But then, when workers started becoming more wealthy, maybe not wealthy, but when they were better off, they stopped voting for the left. And instead, the left have been trying to cater to new groups. And that's how they went down the rabbit hole of identity politics. And that's why the left in Sweden wants Islamic immigration, because they think they can align with Islam against the West and get their votes. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. And I guess in the U.S. the same thing would happen with immigrants from Latin America. Uh, and however you do it, I mean, really, it's just really a bad idea. And I'm not opposed to all immigration. I think a merit-based system like what Trump was talking about yesterday at CPAC, that would be great actually. If you understand Swedish, you could check out the podcast I did with Ronny Berggren in his podcast Amerikanska nyhetsanalyser. It's on my site. I posted a link there, and we were talking about his speech. Uh, so yeah, Alice says voting heard or something like that. Sadly, I have to agree. I think that's the way leftist politicians will look at it. Uh, Joel Aldrich says they do that. The left moves to conservative type states, then they work to change the laws like where they came from. Yeah, that's the part I don't get. I mean, I sometimes joke about that. You could get the American leftists, just let them move to Western Europe, and the Western European conservatives can move to the U.S. I mean, it's a joke, of course, but I think you get the logic of my joke. And Fritanker says, same reason the EU wants the Middle Easterners. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Really, it is. And I mean, it sounds pretty harsh, but I think that's what's going on. Charles Bauer says the Democrat Party has moved so far left compared to 50 years ago. That's my impression too, but I think I might discuss that with my guest next Saturday. I think he has some insight on that. So, uh, by the way, if you have any ideas what I should talk to with an American who lives in Finland, let me know in the chat, or if you're not watching the live stream but you're watching this later, you can also com- just leave a comment and tell me what you want us to talk about next Saturday. And even if you have some other ideas for what I could talk about in live streams, just uh, just let me know one way or the other. And I might not be able to talk about everything that you propose, but I might be able to bring up a few things at least. And well, I'm happy about the people who are here. So thank you for being here. Um, I really depend on you people, so I'm very happy about you being here. Uh, I mean, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to do this. And this is actually a pretty nice way to spend Saturday evening. I chose this time very carefully to make sure that I would be able to get both my American and my European audience in, because it's afternoon in North America, it's evening in Europe, so it should work for everyone. Because I think most of my audience are North Americans, Europeans. Actually, I have quite a few Australians too, but in Australia it's morning now. No, okay, the Australians went to church, but anyway. Free Tanker says, by the way, a country that often gets forgotten is Belgium. They might be in more trouble than any of the other EU countries. I know that Belgium has a lot of troubles, but I don't know the specifics here. I know that they have a problem with Islam, of course. Which Western European country doesn't? Maybe not Portugal. Uh, all the other Western European countries seem to have a problem with Islam now. Maybe not Liechtenstein either. and maybe not Luxembourg. I'm not sure about that. Jacob from Poland says, I heard that Belgium is going to split into new countries. I know there's been a discussion about that sometimes, that the French-speaking part and the Dutch-speaking part should split, but I've never actually seen a serious plan of it. I don't know. Maybe it will. That would be interesting. I wonder which part would get Brussels then. Yo Max says 5:40 in the USA East. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's Eastern time. Yes. Oh, Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. Free Tanker says Brussels had the worst Islamist ghetto in Europe. Molenbeek. Yeah, Molenbeek. I remember hearing about that a few years ago. Even though I try to follow the news, there's so much stuff going on all the time. And the videos I make, I'm only able to make a small part of all I would like to comment on. And I'm not only commenting in videos, I haven't been very active recently, but I will be more active next week. But it's not only the videos, it's also I write articles sometimes for a Norwegian alternative media site, reset.no. You should check that one out. I can write it in the chat so you can check that one out. I write there sometimes. And I also write for a Swedish newsletter, but I think the last number just went out because they are making it into an actual newspaper. I mean, online newspaper. I'll see what happens with that one. I don't know. There's a lot of things going on. So, and even all of this stuff, I still can only comment on maybe a tenth of all I would like to comment on because there's just so much craziness. And my aim is to look closely at Sweden, but also at the Nordic countries and the rest of the world in that order, kind of. And then some parts of the world are more interesting. For instance, Canada, I should look more at Canada because of the things going on there. And Australia, I think there are crazy stuff going on there too. I'm noticing that Australia is one of my biggest audiences, so I should look at what's going on there too. I haven't really done that, but I know there are things going on there. Free Tanker says it's the capital of Islamism in Europe. I think we're on Molenbeek still, Brussels. Yeah, I guess so. Alice says, I'm still not sure about Trump. Well, I'm pretty sure about Trump. Well, I like Trump. And the sheer point what that the European left or the left everywhere are just the way they react to him tells me that he's doing something right. KMY Victor says African gangs in Australia. Yeah, I've heard about that. But I think the problem isn't really that people are from Africa. I think the problem here is that I think these gangs are mostly Somali or something like that, which would point to them being Islamic. Really, I think really Islam is the point here. I could be wrong, but I think that's the real problem. Samuel McLean says, I bet no one was called racist when Sweden was a homogeneous country. Funny how that works. Well, actually, there's an interesting thing about Sweden. Sweden had some homegrown minorities, but they were very small. And Sweden actively tried to assimilate them, to turn them into Swedes, so to speak. They tried to make the Sami to turn into Swedes. They tried to make the Forest Finns, who lived mostly in Värmland, I think, to Swedes. And when Sweden is done with all of this, suddenly Sweden embraces multiculturalism. So it's really crazy. I'm not sure if it's how should you put it, that they are have a bad conscience, or I don't know. William Marshall says, when Trump goes, we're all in trouble again. Uh, their plan will continue from where it left off. Well, hopefully Trump will be able to turn this around, and maybe Mike Pence too. We'll see. Jacob from Poland says, and there is strong anti-Polonism in Jew society, especially from US Jews. I think one might be a little, you should be a little cautious because, well, I think people on the left are anti-Polish, and I think when it comes to the law in Poland and the Israeli response, as I said several times, I think Poland and Israel really are they are not talking to each other, but I think they are misunderstanding each other here. Um and Well, many Jews are very left in the U.S., but you also have wonderful people like Ben Shapiro. And actually, as far as I know, practicing Jews are usually conservative politically, while non-practicing Jews are usually liberal politically. So it's more of a left-wing thing, really, I think. Free Tanker says, it's a bit bizarre. Europe's right-wing hope Viktor Orban complimented Australia as a model country on immigration. Well, what Australia did right, I think, is they were able to stop the boats, and that's what they should do in the Middle Ocean too, the mid, the Mediterranean Ocean, the Mediterranean Ocean. They should really do that, and I mean because the way it works right now, if you can reach European shores, you're kind of set, and then I guess you can walk to Sweden or to Norway to try to get into the benefit system. So of course they have to stop the boats, and a lot of people are dying in the Mediterranean Ocean because, uh, well, because of this. Hey, Jacob from Poland, I kind of like you, but you can't post that kind of comments in the chat room. So please don't do that, because uh, I'm not anti-Jewish in any way, and I agree with Joe Aldrich that Ben is so smart. So even just referring to Jews as a collective they will put me off. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. Free tanker shares good with boats by Australia, but they still have overseas migration from Sudan. It's not the method of migration, but the immigrants that matter, in my opinion. Well, yes, and I don't know which kind of Sudanese people they get. If they get the Muslims or the Christians or what they get, I don't know about that. Okay, Jacob, I'm sorry, but that's it. I might make myself a little unpopular right now, but anything that's anti-Jewish, you can take that elsewhere. That's my line, and I stick by it. And the Western civilization, by the way, is Judeo-Christian Western civilization, and it's unthinkable without the Jews. We even got our faith from the Jews, as Jesus said, and without Christian faith, there wouldn't have been any Western or Christian or European civilization. Um, so that's it. But I've been on for almost 2 hours. Maybe it's time for me to to leave by now because I haven't been on for this long ever before, and mostly it's been a good discussion, a good chat. Uh, Joe Max says I'm with you, Swede. Thank you. Okay, there is something interesting. Okay, I'll stay for a few more minutes and look at what the comments here. Selection Natural says, do you think there will be a future generation in Sweden who create a more conservative culture, like Sweden's 1968 student revolt? I sincerely hope so. I have heard, hearsay again, I have heard that Swedes from Generation C, people born maybe 2000 and later, are more conservative. So we don't know. Maybe I'll hope and pray for it. Joel Aldrich says, "How often do you do these live chats?" Well, I do them every Saturday. I try to do one midweek too. Maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, maybe Thursday. That might differ a little, but Saturdays is kind of my given. Uh, 10 p.m. Central European Time, which is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and so on. And William Marshall says, "Thank you very much for your time." Well, thank you for hanging out with me. And Charles Bauer says, "Great chat and God bless you." And with that, I'll say, uh, okay, I'll address this, and then and then it's it. Alice said, "It's sad that we can't." I guess she mean it's sad that we can talk about Arabs but not Jews. Why? Okay, I am not anti-Arab. I am not anti-Somali. I am not anti-Persian. I am not anti-Chinese, and I am not anti-Jewish. I know I am not anti any ethnicity. I am anti-Islam and anti-political correctness. It's about ideas, not about ethnicity, skin color, or any crazy stuff like that. It's about the ideas, the value system you bring with you, not what you happen to look like. I hope I've been clear now. That's really what it's about for me. So uh, thank you all for hanging out with me for almost 2 hours, and and well, I'm really grateful for for all of you, for the people here, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. And I'm also grateful for the super chat from Wendy Dodd, and and I guess that's really it. So until next time, have a nice day, and God bless.